Hello everybody, I'm going to be reading a chapter of Harry Potter. I'm reading it from school in these lockdown times, and I have to say that I came across Harry Potter 20 years ago, it must have been. Some students at school were telling me just how good these books were. It's before the films came out, and I wasn't sure if I believed them or not, but I was going on holiday, it was the summer holidays, so I bought 4 books. The first 4 were in a sort of special collector's pack. I read them. I have to say, I absolutely love them. Some of my favourite books and some of my favourite times reading to my children as well. Now, unlike lots of the people that have read this, I'm not the greatest reader in the world. You know, like a lot of you boys, I struggle to read books. I don't always enjoy them. I love these Harry Potter books. So if I stumble or make mistakes, just have to bear with it, okay? I'm an ex-Lady Me boy. We weren't encouraged to read when I was at school. I'm glad you're encouraged to read now. So here goes. You're joking! It was dinner time. Harry had just finished telling Harry what had happened when he left the grounds with Professor McGonagall. Ron had a piece of steak and kidney pie halfway to his mouth, but he'd forgotten all about it. Seeker, he said, but first is never. You must be the youngest house player in about a century, said Harry, shoveling pie into his mouth. He felt particularly hungry after the excellent excitement of the afternoon. Wood told me. Ron was amazed. So impressed, he just sat and gaped at Harry. I start training next week, Harry said. Only don't tell anyone. Woods want to keep it a secret. Fred and George Weasley now came into the hall, spotted Harry and hurried over. Well done, said George in a low voice. Wood told us. We're on the team too. Beat us. I tell you, we're going to win the Quidditch Cup for sure this year, said Fred. We haven't won this since Charlie left, but this year's team is going to be brilliant. You must be good, Harry. Wood was almost skipping when he told us. Anyway, we've got to go. Lee Jordan reckons he's found a new secret passage out of the school. But it's that one behind the statue of Gregory the Smarmy that we found in our first week. See you. Fred and George had hardly disappeared when someone far less welcome turned up. Malfoy, flanked by Crabbe and Goyle. Having a last meal, Potter? When are you going to get the train back to those muggles? You're a lot braver now you're back on the ground and you've got your little friends with you, said Harry coolly. There was, of course, nothing little about Crabbe and Goyle, but as the high table was full of teachers, neither of them could do more than crack their knuckles and scowl. I'd take you on any time on my own, said Malfoy. Tonight, if you want. Wizard's duel. Wands only. No contact. What's the matter? Never heard of a wizard's duel before, I suppose? Of course he has, said Ron, wheeling around. I'm his second. Who's yours? Malfoy looked at Crabbe and Goyle, sizing them up. Crabbe, he said. Midnight, all right? We'll meet you in the trophy room. That's always unlocked. While Malfoy had gone, Ron and Harry looked at each other. What's a wizard's duel? Said Harry. And what do you mean, you're my second? Well, a second's there to take over if you die, said Ron casually, getting started on his last bit of cold pie. Catch a look of Harry's face, he added quickly, but people only die in proper duels, you know, with real wizards. The most you and Malfoy will be able to do is send sparks at each other. Neither of you know enough magic to do any real damage. I bet he expected you to refuse anyway. And what if I wave my wand and nothing happens? Said Harry. Throw it away and punch him on the nose, suggested Ron. Excuse me? They both looked up. It was Hermione Granger. Can't a person eat in peace in this place? Said Ron. Hermione ignored him and spoke to Harry. I couldn't help overhearing what you and Malfoy were saying. Bet you could, muttered Ron. And you mustn't go wandering around the school at night. Think of the points you'll lose for Gryffindor if you're caught, and you're bound to be. It's really selfish of you. And it's really none of your business, said Harry. Goodbye, said Ron. All the same, it wasn't what you'd call the perfect end to the day, Harry thought. As he lay awake much later listening to Dean and Seamus falling asleep, Neville wasn't back from hospital wing. Ron had spent all evening giving him advice such as, if he tries to curse you, you'd better dodge it, because I can't remember how to block them. There was a very good chance that they were going to get caught by Mrs. Filch or Mrs. Norris, and Harry felt he was pushing his luck, breaking another school rule today. On the other hand, Malfoy's sneering face kept looming up out of the darkness. This was his big chance to beat Malfoy, face to face. He couldn't miss it. 11:30, Ron muttered. We'd better go. They pulled on their dressing gowns, picked up their wands and crept across the tower room, down the spiral staircase into Gryffindor common room. A few embers were still glowing in the fireplace, turning all the armchairs into hunched black shadows. They had almost reached the portrait hole when a voice spoke from the chair nearest them. I can't believe you're going to do this, Harry. A lamp flickered on. It was Hermione, wearing a pink dressing gown and a frown. You, said Ron furiously, go back to bed. I almost told your brother, Hermione snapped. Percy, he's a prefect. He'd have put a stop to this. Harry couldn't believe anyone could be so interfering. Come on, he said to Ron. He pushed open the portrait of the fat lady and climbed through the hole. Hermione wasn't going to give up that easily. She followed Ron through the portrait hole, hissing at them like an angry goose. Don't you care about Gryffindor? Do you only care about yourselves? I don't want Slytherin to win the House Cup, and you lose all the points I got from Professor McGonagall today for knowing all about the switching spells. Go away. All right, but I warned you. You must remember what I said when you're going on the train home tomorrow. You're so... But what they were, they didn't find out. Hermione had turned to the portrait of the fat lady to let herself back in again. The fat lady had gone on a night-time visit, and Hermione was locked out of Gryffindor Tower. Now what am I going to do? She said. That's your problem, said Ron. We've got to go. We're going to be late. They hadn't even reached the end of the corridor when Hermione caught up with them. I'm coming with you, she said. No, you're not. Do you think I'm going to stand out there and wait for Filch to catch me? If he finds all three of us, I'll tell him the truth, that I was trying to stop you and you can back me up. You've got some nerve, said Ron loudly. Shut up, both of you, said Harry sharply. I heard something. It was a sort of snuffling. Mrs. Norris, breathed Ron, squinting through the dark. It wasn't Mrs. Norris, it was Neville. He was curled up on the floor, fast asleep, but jerked suddenly awake as they crept nearer. Thank goodness you found me. I've been out here for hours. I couldn't remember the new password to get into the bed. Keep your voice down, Neville. The password's pig snout. But it won't help you now. The fat lady's gone off somewhere. How's your arm? Said Harry. Fine, said Neville, showing them. Madame Portefeuille mended it in about a minute. Good. Look, Neville, we've got to be somewhere. We'll see you later. Don't leave me, said Neville, scrambling to his feet. I don't want to stay here. The bloody Baron's been passed twice. Ron looked at his watch and then glared fiercely at Hermione and Neville. If either of you get us caught, I'll never rest until I've learnt that curse of the bogies Krill told us and use it on you. Hermione opened her mouth, but perhaps to tell Ron exactly how to use the curse of the bogies, but Harry hissed to be quiet, and they beckoned him over to him. They flitted across the corridors, striped with bars of moonlight from the high windows. At every turn, Harry expected to run into Filch or Mrs. Norris, but they were lucky. They sped up a staircase to the third floor and tiptoed across the trophy room. Malfoy and Crabbe weren't there yet. The crystal trophy cases glimmered through the moonlight, caught them. Cups, shields, plates and statues winked silver and gold in the darkness. They edged along the walls, keeping their eyes on the doors at either end of the room. Harry took out his wand in case Malfoy leapt in and started at once. The minutes crept by. He's late. Maybe he's chickened out, Ron whispered. Then a noise in the next room made them jump. Harry had only just raised his wand when he heard someone speak, and it wasn't Malfoy. Sniff around, my sweet. They might be lurking in a corner. It was Filch speaking to Mrs. Norris. Horror-struck, Harry waved madly at the other three of them to follow him as quickly as possible. They scurried silently towards the door, away from Filch's voice. Neville's robes had barely whipped around the corner when they heard Filch enter the trophy room. They're in here somewhere, they heard him mutter, probably hiding. This way, Harry mouthed to the others, and petrified they began to creep down along the galley full of suits of armour. They could hear Filch getting nearer. Neville suddenly let out a frightened squeak and broke into a run. He tripped, grabbed around the waist, and the pair of them toppled right into a chute of armour. The clang and clashing were enough to wake the whole castle. "Run!" Harry yelled, and the four of them sprinted down the gallery, not looking back to see whether Filch was following. They swung around the doorpost and galloped down one corridor, then another, Harry in the lead without any idea of where they were going. They ripped through a tapestry and found themselves in a hidden passageway, hurtled along it, and came out near the Charms classroom, which they knew was miles from the trophy room. "I think we've lost him," Harry panted, leaning against the cold wall and wiping his forehead. Neville was double bent, wheezing and spluttering. "I told you," Hermione gasped, clutching at her stitch in her chest. "I told you." "We've got to get back to Gryffindor Tower," said Ron, "quickly as possible." "Malfoy tricked you," Hermione said. "You realise that, don't you? He was never going to meet you. Filch knew someone was going to be in the trophy room. Malfoy must have tipped him off." Harry thought she was probably right, but he wasn't going to tell her. "Let's go." It wasn't going to be that simple. They hadn't gone more than a dozen places when a doorknob rattled and someone came shooting out of the classroom in front of them. It was Peeves. He caught sight of them and gave a squeal of delight. "Shut up, Peeves, please. You'll get us thrown out," Peeves crackled. "Wandering round all midnight, ickle firsties, tut tut tut. Naughty, naughty. You'll get caughty." "Don't if you don't give us away, Peeves, please." "Should I tell Fitch I should?" said Peeves in a slanty voice, but his eyes glinted wickedly. "It's for own good, you know." "Get out of the way," snapped Ron. He gave a swipe at Peeves, and that was a big mistake. "Students out of bed!" Peeves bellowed. "Students out of bed down in the Charms corridor!" Ducking under Peeves, they ran for their lives, right to the end of the corridor, where they slammed into a door, and it was locked. "This is it," Ron moaned, as they pushed helplessly at the door. "We're done for. This is the end." They could hear footsteps, Filch running as fast as he could towards Peeves' shouts. "Oh, move over," Hermione snarled. She grabbed Harry's wand, tapped the lock, and said, "Hello, Amora." The lock clicked, and the door swung open. They piled through it, shut it quickly, and pressed their ears against it, listening. "Which way did they go, Peeves?" Filch was saying. "Quick, tell me." "Say please." "Don't mess me about, Peeves. Now, where did they go?" "Shan't say nothing if you don't say please," said Peeves in his annoying sing-along voice. "All right, please." "Don't mess me about, Peeves. Now, where did they go?" "Shan't say nothing if you don't say please. I'll start that a bit again. "Which way did they go, Peeves?" Filch said. "Quick, tell me, please." "Say please." "Don't mess me about, Peeves. Now, where did they go?" "Shan't say nothing if you don't say please," said Peeves in his annoying sing-along voice. "All right, please." "Nothing, ha ha ha. Told you I wouldn't say nothing if you said please, ha ha ha." And they heard the sound of Peeves whooshing away and Filch cursing in rage. "He thinks the door is locked," Harry whispered. "I think we're okay. Get off, Neville." For Neville had been tugging on Harry's sleeve for the last minute. "What?" Harry turned round and saw quite clearly what. For a moment he was sure he'd walked into a nightmare. This was too much, on top of everything else that had happened so far tonight. They weren't in a room, as they had supposed. They were in a corridor. The forbidden corridor on the 3rd floor. And now they knew why it was forbidden. They're looking straight in the eyes of a monstrous dog. A dog filled with the whole space from ceiling to floor. It had 3 heads, 3 pairs of rolling eyes, 3 sets of mad eyes, 3 noses, and they were twitching and quivering in every direction. 3 drooling mouths, saliva hanging in slippery ropes from yellowish fangs. It was standing quite still, all 6 eyes staring at them, and Harry knew that the only reason they weren't already dead was that their sudden appearance had taken it by surprise. But it was quickly getting over that. There was no mistaking that, and that thunderous growls, and what those thunderous growls meant. Harry groped for the doorknob. Between Filch and death, he'd take Filch. They fell backwards. Harry slammed the door shut. They ran. They almost flew back down the corridor. Filch must have hurried off to look for them somewhere else because they didn't see him anywhere. But they could hardly care. All they wanted to do was put as much space between themselves and that monster. They didn't stop running until they reached the portrait of the fat lady on the 7th floor. "Where on earth have you been?" they said as they all talked to her, flushed with sweaty faces. "Never mind that. Pig snout, panted Harry, and the portrait swung open. They scrambled into the common room and collapsed, trembling in the chairs. It was a while before any of them spoke. Neville, indeed, looked as though he'd never speak again. "What do you think they're doing? Keeping a thing like that locked up in school," said Ron finally. "If any dog needs exercise, that one does." Hermione got both her breath and her bed temper back. "You don't use your eyes, any of you, do you?" she snapped. "Didn't you see what it was standing on?" "The floor," Harry suggested. It wasn't looking at his feet. It was too busy looking at his head. "No, not the floor. It was standing on a trap door. It's obviously guarding something." She stood up, glaring at them. "I hope you're pleased with yourselves. We could have all been killed, or worse, expelled. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to bed." Ron stared after her, his mouth open. "No, we don't mind," he said. "You'd think we dragged her along, wouldn't you?" But Hermione had given Harry something else to think about as he climbed back into bed. The dog was guarding something special. What had Hagrid said? Gringotts was the safest place in the world for something you wanted to hide, except for perhaps Hogwarts. It looked as though Harry had found out where that grubby package from Vault 713 was. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you didn't find it too painful. Anyway, I enjoyed reading it. Take care and see you soon.